Hello, hello, it's Elizabeth Busby here, the Director of Programs for the Theology of the Body Institute. Today, we are going to answer a question that I get asked a lot. I have heard asked a lot. When my friends and I were all discerning marriage, we talked about this a lot. The question is my relationship supposed to be this difficult? So not to say that when my friends and I were discerning marriage, when I was discerning marriage, the relationship was always really hard, but I think there are seasons of every relationship that are difficult, and it's reasonable to ask the question, is it supposed to be this hard, right? Is this supposed to be happening? Is this normal? Or is this a sign that we need to break up? The first thing I want to do is kind of reframe the idea of relationships. So if you ever watch Hallmark movies or Hollywood movies that talk about relationships being fun and easy and sweet, or they go from, like, I think of It's a Wonderful Life, where they have this really angsty, like, courtship kind of thing, and then literally the next scene, they're getting married. You know, like, it makes it look like it's supposed to be really easy. It makes it look like it's supposed to be really fun and sweet and whimsical. And the reality is that relationships are a lot of work. Relationships are difficult by nature of what they are, which, if you think about what they are, they're two fallen, broken people trying to figure out how to mush their lives to be able to do life together, right? They have different backgrounds, they have different experiences, different things that they've gone through that shape who they are. They process things differently, they have different preferences. So to say that you're gonna take two totally different beings and mush them into this one, that's a difficult thing to do, right? So on one level, it's okay if your relationship is hard, because relationships in general are hard. There's gonna be no relationship that's easy. None. Zero. No relationship in your life that is 100% easy all the time. They take work and they take sacrifice. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why the church acknowledges that marriage makes you holy. There's a lot of things that have to be refined in your heart on that journey to becoming perfect. So when the church says marriage makes you holy, that means that marriage is going to be that blacksmith pole that, like, you know, your heart is big and on fire, and that blacksmith pole is like chipping away at all the impurities. Like, marriage is one of the things that does that so well, which is beautiful. We talk about it in a beautiful way a lot of the time, but the real boots on the ground nitty gritty is like, that hurts, that's painful, that's hard. So on the one hand, it's okay if your relationship is difficult. Now, on the other hand, there are things that make relationships harder. And what I've seen when people ask this question is they're usually in a season where there's a lot of conflict. Most of the time, what I have seen is when a relationship is really hard and people are asking this question, is it supposed to be this hard? You're having a lot of communication difficulties. So it's usually when something's happening from the outside, like someone has maybe a scary medical diagnosis, or something's going on with their family, or they're having financial issues, or those sorts of things. Those often are not the things people are talking about when they're saying, is my relationship supposed to be hard? Now, if you go through those things and they pull you farther apart, if you're not married yet, if you go through those things and they pull you farther apart and you're not working through them as a team, growing in intimacy, etc., that may be a sign that it's, you know, you don't work well together under pressure, under crisis, under whatever, or you don't feel called to work through whatever the other is going on in the other person's life. Yeah, that could be a sign that the relationship is meant to end. But a lot of times, it's just a couple is going through something and they're having a hard time communicating about it. And if that's the case, if there's a communication issue, or you guys are getting in fights all the time, or there's just a lot of difficulty around the way you talk and communicate, a lot of that stuff can be mitigated by learning skills. A lot of times we think relationships are just supposed to come easy because we are born into relationship and we see relationships around us. And if you had any modicum of functionality in your family of origin, the relationships just were always there and they kept going, and maybe it didn't seem like you put a lot of work into them to make them happen and make them function. So you get into this totally voluntary relationship, romantic relationship, and you're like, I don't know how to do this. Like, I don't know how to create a relationship from scratch. I don't know how to make it flourish. I don't know what to do to foster it and nourish it and treat it as the precious thing that it is, because it always just kind of happened before. You know, I just had parents, I just had siblings, and there we were. So I think it's reasonable that you learn how to be in relationship and you learn the things that are required for a good, healthy relationship. Today, I'm going to focus on just some communication tips, okay? Some things that you can learn about communicating with each other that will be helpful for you. So one of the things I want to say in communication is it is not a good idea to have conversations when you're very emotionally heated. Okay, so I'm gonna do a little bit of neuroscience for you. For those who don't know, I'm a marriage and family therapist. I love relationship dynamics. I love working through this stuff. I love the brain and how the brain works. I think it's so cool. So when you think about those situations of high stress, right? What's going on is your body is in what's called fight or flight. I'm sure you've heard about fight or flight, adrenaline, cortisol, those kind of stress hormones that get pumped into the body. When you are in a stressful situation and your brain goes into fight or flight, it does this really kind of cool thing. So I borrowed this, I learned this from this guy named Dan Siegel, who has really great neuroscience things, a lot about parenting, a lot of cool stuff, Dan Siegel. But he talks about the brain, he uses this fist as a model for a brain. So this part, my thumb, represents this part of your brain that's like the reptilian brain. So it exists in all the way down to reptiles, right? Not just mammals have it, not just humans have it. It's called the limbic system, I should have said. And there's multiple things within the limbic system. One of the things in the limbic system is this fight or flight response. This then represents the part of your brain that is up here. It's called the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for things like reason and looking at different things and saying, this is the best decision, and just general decision making, those sorts of things. So normally your brain functions like this, right? Your upstairs brain, this prefrontal cortex, is very much in line with your limbic system, your fight or flight response, your downstairs brain. But when that fight or flight is triggered, what happens is you kind of blow your top, right? As Dan Siegel says, you like flip your lid and your limbic system is cut off from your prefrontal cortex. So you're living out of this fight or flight. Now, if you think about it, why would that happen? Well, if you're a caveman and you see this creature come up to you and it is yellow and it has this big furry orange halo around its head and it has really sharp teeth and it's walking on 4 legs, you don't really have time to sit and be like, that thing looks like it might eat my child. I should probably, am I strong enough to like fight back? Do I need to, like, what's the best, do I have time to like sharpen my arrowhead or whatever? Like, no, that creature comes, you have this response and you have to act immediately or you're gonna die, right? So it makes sense that you would live out of this fight or flight response, not thinking through what's going to happen next because time is often of the essence. So as humanity has developed, most of us are not in life or death situations like that caveman on a regular basis, but we are still, when we have things that happen to us that stress us out, that still gets triggered, right? It's still a pretty sensitive mechanism in the brain. So even though fighting with your boyfriend is not really on the same level of the caveman getting attacked by the lion, your brain will still respond by going into fight or flight, and you will be living out of this limbic system, which means you don't have access to the parts of your brain that help you to make reasonable decisions, that help you to have good conversation, that help you to say, wow, he looks really upset right now. Maybe I should use a gentle tone. No, you're gonna be like going for it, right? And if you're not careful, both people will be very heated and not be able to have reasonable conversations. So it's very important to recognize when you are in a place where you have flipped your lid and you are living out of this fight or flight, you're living out of your downstairs brain, and work to calm yourself down. Relationship experts say it can take up to 20 minutes to fully engage what's called the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is when you're in fight or flight. The parasympathetic nervous system calms you down, and it can take up to 20 minutes. When you are in a really heated disagreement about something, you're really passionate about it, you're really upset about it, you're feeling all your big feelings, maybe your palms are sweating, your heart is racing, you're having a physiological reaction to what's going on, stop the conversation for 20 minutes. Set a phone timer for 20 minutes and say, we need a timeout, we need a recess, I'm gonna set my timer for 20 minutes and I'll come back. Make sure you come back, right? Because if you say you're gonna come back and you don't come back, if you say you're gonna come back and you leave and you drive around and you're not back for an hour and a half, that is very damaging to trust. That's very damaging to the safety of a relationship. Don't do that. Say you're gonna come back in 20 minutes and come back in 20 minutes and then try to have the conversation again. And do this as many times as you need to be able to have the full conversation about whatever it is in we say, give your feeling brain a hug. In this situation where your feeling brain is getting a hug and you're able to engage with your reason and have a good, healthy conversation. I don't want to end this video without saying one thing though. If you are in a situation where there's abuse in your relationship, the way to uphold your dignity is to get out of it, right? If you're in a situation where there's physical, emotional, sexual abuse, that is not healthy. And is the relationship supposed to be this hard? No. it's not supposed to be this hard. There's not supposed to be abuse in the relationship. Your dignity is being violated, and the best thing that you can do for the relationship for you is to get out of it. But hopefully, most of you are not in abusive relationships, and so this advice will hopefully be helpful for you as you're discerning what to do. So I hope you liked this video. Please subscribe to our channel. If you want more information, feel free to send me a message on Instagram at Discerning Marriage if something I said made you want to know more about it, if there's like some specific communication thing you wanted to learn or some specific relational thing you wanted to learn, and I can target my future videos around those. I'd be happy to do that. That was on Instagram. Did I say message me on Instagram? I don't know if I said that, but it was on Instagram is what I meant. Or I guess you could leave a comment here if you'd like to do that too. And until next time, let's pray for each other. I will be praying for you. Please pray for me. Bye.